I'm Sam from Cultaholic.com, and this is Graded for Friday Night SmackDown, where I take a look at the show segment by segment and award each little bit a grade from A+ to F. Now, Super Showdown was interesting, wasn't it? I don't agree with the fact that The Fiend lost the belt. I sort of see that they had to do it, but I don't agree with the fact that it was Goldberg. It didn't really make much sense. I guess in a way it means that Fiend still hasn't been beaten by anybody active, but it's a stretch. It's a massive stretch. Goldberg is only Universal Champion. He's going to be on the show tonight, as well as Johnny Cena. He's making his big return. So yeah, nobody got stranded at the airport this time. Hopefully everybody got back okay in time for SmackDown. Hopefully everybody's here. So without any further ado, let's crack on with it. Hit the intro. And we kick off the show with Big Billy, big balls. Oh, out he comes, and he's sort of getting cheered. There are people, like, it's split. I mean, it might just be pumped in sound, I don't know, but there are definite boos, there are definite cheers. There are people stood up applauding and, you know, giving it this, and there's a lot of them, so it can't just be plants. I don't know what's going on with the world. I was really expecting Roman Reigns post-Mania 33 heat here, but it just wasn't the same. Goldberg absorbs it just a little bit, gets on the mic and he says, it's not important who was last, what's important is who's next. You know, get the big catchphrase in there. Again, a weird ripple of cheers and boos, some people applauding, some people just firmly giving it that. And then, like, sort of, there's a pause and he looks to the ramp and out comes Roman Reigns. Roman, again, moderate pop, like you can tell people are definitely cheering, you can tell there are definitely boos. There are people chanting stuff, and it doesn't sound like they're being very nice. The two have a bit of a stare down, and Roman says, quite bluntly, I am next. And then, you know, again, weird crowd noise. They somehow managed to do it. They've taken Roman Reigns, who was on a bit of a hot streak, having come back into the fold. Yes, he's been working that big, long-ass program with Corbin, but, you know, there was still some hype around Roman, and now it seems like he's just going to go back to being the regular old booed guy, back to square one. So this gets a D. I know it's sort of split. People enjoyed it, people hated it, but personally, I didn't understand why Goldberg didn't just come out and run Bray down. If they want to get Roman over as the big guy at Mania and they want people to cheer Roman, they want people to boo Goldberg, you just have him come out and slag Bray off. Tell everybody that Bray's weak, that the Fiend is nothing, that none of it matters, and that Goldberg, this old man, just play into that fact. Like, he beat him. None of these other stars can. What does that tell you about the quality of these wrestlers? All he had to do was that. He just had to come out, run down the entire roster, be an asshole, and then Roman comes out, and then Roman's like, you don't know, like, how hard we work these days, we're better than you. Easy story, but they just didn't do it. So unceremoniously, there goes my theory about all of this. But that's the end of that promo. Let's move on. When we come back from the break, we have Bayley versus Naomi. The bell goes, they're about to lock up, and then Bayley's like, whoa. Like, no, this is crap. This is absolute bollocks. I wrestled you last night. I beat you. Why are we doing this again? I'm not wrestling you. I'm not here to wrestle you. I'm here to bring out this person. And out comes Sasha Banks. She's back. Michael Cole reminding us, of course, that it is indeed boss time, guys. It's boss time.
Boss time.
Naomi gets distracted by Sasha making her entrance because obviously she doesn't know what she's doing now. Bayley then attacks her from behind. This doesn't last very long though. Naomi manages to get herself back on the front foot. Naomi hits the rear view and looks like she could have sealed the deal on it, but then Sasha storms the ring. Sasha breaks it up. The match gets thrown out. They beat her down, and then out comes Lacey, and then it turns into this weird impromptu tag match. Naomi and Lacey then make very quick work of the heels heading into the break. They dump them to the outside and they strike a pose. But when we come back, Naomi is being firmly ground down by the heels. We're seeing a lot of this in SmackDown at the moment. There's sort of like an early face victory, well, not victory, but an early face, you know, stand tall, leading into a long drawn out period of somebody being isolated, leading to the eventual hot tag. It just seems to be rippling through most tag bouts these days. There is a great moment though, because Lacey's on the outside the entire time, desperately trying to get a tag to Naomi. Sasha just drags Naomi over, I think by her hair, and she's letting her get close, and she's like just taunting Lacey. She's getting in her face and just saying stuff to her before just throwing Naomi down. Lacey, of course, eventually gets in, cleans house, and, you know, just dominates for a little bit of the match. Her and Naomi start working together well as a unit, and then there's a little bit of a breakdown. I think Lacey is dumped to the outside, Sasha is also dumped to the outside. They start brawling back and forth, and in the confusion, Naomi is able to roll Bayley up and get a cheeky win. I'm going to give this one a C. It was nice that we didn't just have a straight rematch. So many times on like post pay-per-view shows, we just have a straight up rematch of the night before, and it's pretty paint by numbers. So this tag element made it just a little bit different, a little bit fresh. I quite like that. It's good to see Sasha back as well, but I don't want this to really be happening for too much longer. I want to start sowing the seeds of dissent between Sasha and Bayley, because surely those two are going to feud. I don't know if you can turn Bayley face though. I don't know if you can turn Sasha face. So it's a bit of a difficulty here. You can't really have two heels feuding without at least somebody getting cheered. But after this, we move on to Robert Roode with Dolph Ziggler against Kofi Kingston with Big E. So it's nice to see this. Robert Roode is sticking to the basic fundamentals. Kofi comes at him and he just grinds him down. He's just on top of him. Whatever Kofi does, he's right there, like a split second behind him, just able to control him. He's not letting him get too far away from him, because he knows if he gives Kofi that distance, Kofi's going to wipe the floor with him. So, of course, Robert Roode hits a monkey flip, Kofi lands safely, and what happens? Kofi starts to run away with it. This all falls apart though. Kofi is mounting a pretty strong comeback. Roode is thrown to the outside. Ziggler then gets up on the apron and distracts the ref. So you've got Roode and Biggie who are like arguing on the outside, and then Roode turns, sees the ring steps. He just sort of like kicks it or like shoves it and makes a loud bang, and then just feigns injury. He just leans over it. The referee turns around with the noise, sees Big E, sees Roode, who's all like slumped over, and he just naturally assumes Big E's hit him, and he's like, get out. So Big E is ejected in this beautiful little Eddie Guerrero-esque moment. I loved that. We also cut backstage to Mandy Rose, who's watching the match. Roode keeps the heat on from here, but you know where it's going. Kofi starts running away with it. He lays in strikes, he hits the boom drop, he almost has trouble in paradise, but he gets caught short. Roode hits a spine buster, but no pin. He goes for the glorious DDT. Kofi manages to get out of that and hits SOS. Roode looks down for the count. Ziggler has to pull his leg onto the rope in order to break the pin. The referee obviously doesn't see it, and then there's a little bit of confusion back and forth. Kofi's like, what's going on? And in this small moment of confusion, Roode is able to roll Kofi up and pick up the cheeky, horrible, heely, sneaky win. We cut backstage post-bell real quick. Mandy Rose is still watching TV. Sonya is now there with her, and she's like, looks like your man's having fun out there. No, that's not Otis. There is no Otis out there. This is ridiculous. I'm going to give this a B+. It was really nice to see Roode able to stretch his legs in like a one-on-one competitive featured singles match with a guy like Kofi. It's just like a dream, innit? Like, you get to work with somebody who's effortlessly awesome at whatever he does. Roode is also massively underrated, so I think it helps just peppering in little matches like this just to remind you Bobby Roode is a real dangerous, credible threat. The ring step spot was fantastic as well. I can't believe how much I popped for that. With Roode keeping the pressure on as well, it felt like Kofi had to really dig deep to try and overcome the odds, and then you get the sneaky little win at the end. And next we go backstage to Otis. It's our boy, our beautiful small little angel, and he's sat there and he looks so sad. He tells Tucky, I don't know what to do. There's just something not right about Mandy dating Ziggler. It doesn't really add up. And Tucker looks a little bit annoyed now. He's went to bat for him against Mandy and Sonya, I think, was it last week or a couple of weeks ago, where he pretty much put her in her place and was like, this is ridiculous, and she obviously knew nothing about the text. But now he looks just a little bit annoyed. He's like, look, it's not just like in the movies all the time. Sometimes in real life, the guy doesn't get the girl. Sometimes Dolph Ziggler gets the girl. You don't. But he says, I'm sick of seeing you down. Next week, we're going to make you happy again. We're going to take you and we're going to sort you out. We're going to put you in front of some people that would never, ever, ever choose Dolph Ziggler over you, and that's the WWE Universe. And Otis is like, you know what? I think you're right. We then go back to the ring for a contract signing for the Intercontinental Championship match at Elimination Chamber. So out comes Nakamura with Sami and Cesaro. The table's set up in the ring. Renee's in there, your standard stuff. You've got your flipboard, you've got the contract, and then out comes Braun, who's wearing the belt, looks great wearing the belt, and he's got a lovely new mullet. Nice. Sami runs down the way that Braun's treated them. He especially puts Braun on blast for the injury caused to Nakamura after planting him through the grand piano last week. It sliced Nakamura's head open, and this ruined his birthday. Braun cuts him off and he's like, no, I'm sick of you moaning, just give me the contract, I'll sign it. I don't care what the contract says, because Sami's like, no, we need to read through the contract, make sure everything's okay. Braun's like, I don't care what it says, because it can say one-on-one, but I know for a fact I'm going to have to end up fighting all three of you anyway, so just bring it. And Sami's like, oh really? You're happy to fight all three of us, and so Braun's already signed it. So Sami just signs it, makes a couple of amendments, and we're set for Elimination Chamber. We're going to have a handicap match, 3-on-1 against Strowman. Sami makes a big deal out of it, and Braun says, well, how do you know you're going to make it to Chamber? He moves the table and proceeds to attack them, and he's beating them down, and then eventually, because there's three of them, they beat him down. It's not really that believable because he could probably snap them all in half, but they beat him down, they pick him up, they put him through a table. I'm going to give this a B+. I loved it. Sami is gold on the mic. He's proving so much through this managerial role that he's so much more than just a wrestler. Like, he is a very hot commodity, and I hope that this time period is going to maybe lead to him being pushed a little bit further up the card later on in his career. And as for the handicap match, I think it's going to be a pretty entertaining ride, so fingers crossed. Next up, we have Daniel Bryan versus Curtis Axel with Drew Gulak at ringside, and yes, more lower carders. I was saying this about Slater. It's nice to see these guys just get dropped in occasionally, and I like that this is all eventually going to, of course, build to Gulak versus Bryan, and I hope they make this into like a proper feud. But right now, Gulak is going around and deliberately picking people that usually Bryan would wipe the floor with, and just giving them a little bit of advice because he's got Bryan scouted. So Bryan is getting taken to task by Axel in the opening stages of this one, much the same way that Slater took him to task last week. So he gets off to a pretty strong start. He's in control for quite a lot of it, and then eventually Bryan is able to get his way out of it and lay in the yes kicks. Axel's able to get out of the yes kicks. He gets out of a quick submission attempt thereafter by Bryan. He goes for the perfect plex, but this is turned into a lapel lock, and he taps. Gulak is pretty angered by the loss, and I'm going to give this match a C+. As I said just before and last week, and I'm just really into the idea of Bryan versus Gulak, two of the best technical wrestlers alive today, and just put them together. It's going to be a great feud. And I'm also enjoying seeing some names that we wouldn't usually see. So yeah, very much looking forward to whatever's coming down the line with this one. Don't have a lot of time to dwell on it though, because next up we have Miz and Morrison, who are here to gloat about their big tag title win. They get in the ring, Miz runs down the New Day, he runs down the WWE Universe, he runs down anybody that never believed in them. They start up with their Miz and Morrison hey hey ho ho chant, which is great because it's sort of like that annoying little kid who gave himself a nickname in school. And as they're standing tall and gloating and the music hits, a referee comes sprinting down the ramp and he goes over to Greg Hamilton. He's relaying some information to him, and Hamilton's like, whoa, okay, right, cut the music, there's an announcement. And the announcement is as follows. Miz and Morrison's first title defense will take place at Elimination Chamber in like 2 weeks' time. And it's going to be Miz and Morrison versus The New Day versus Heavy Machinery versus Lucha House Party versus the Usos in the Chamber. This is going to be potentially one of the matches that could run away with it. This is possibly, it's got all the makings of a match of the night. The Usos then very quickly appear, and then when we come back from the break, there's an impromptu match, Miz and Morrison versus the Usos. When the match opens up, we get a glitch almost straight away. There's one toward the end of the match as well, so I don't know if it's just linked to these tag bouts. Maybe it's got something to do with the people involved here, but there was another glitch all the same. As I said before, this one starts with Jimmy Uso being trapped and worked over, and they're going to let him keep getting closer to Jay, and they're going to keep bringing him back, and they're going to let him get closer, and it's the formula. It's the formula I just talked about. So they're working him over, they're getting in as many cheap shots as possible, and this of course doesn't last for very long. He sends Miz to the floor, he decks Morrison for his troubles as Morrison's trying to stop him, and just as he's about to bring the hand down to Jay to make the tag, Miz pulls Jay off the apron. This was timed like pristinely, like the hand just falls through nothing. It was great. Back from the break, Jay is just straight up laying it into the Miz. Morrison, of course, gets in because nasty heels. They start laying into him. Jimmy's not having any of it. He comes back and he starts lending a hand. There's a roll-up after a splash that leads to a near fall. Morrison nearly has Starship Pain, and then this is where things get really interesting. So he looks like he's got Starship Pain ready to go. The Usos cut him off, and then one Uso goes to the corner for the splash setup. The other one has him in like a destroyer/sunset bomb position. It was really weird. Sort of brings him down, hits a massive destroyer from, I guess, Brett's rope. He's like sat on the top, but he stood on Brett's rope. He like nails him with the destroyer, and then there's an immediate splash. It's like a new double team thing. It was great. I'm going to give this one a B+. It was impromptu as hell. It was weird. I don't know what, it just sort of went, woo! Like, I don't know if we were running late. Like, I don't know what was going on, but it happened. You know, the match was pretty solid. It was entertaining. it was a nice surprise. It was like a bonus Christmas present. And finally, we get to the main event slot of the evening, and it's John Cena returning to SmackDown. Cena hypes the crowd in Boston. He says that Mania's coming up, and with Mania coming up is, of course, the question on everybody's lips every single year. Well, Mania's here. What's John Cena gonna do this year? He hypes the crowd in Boston, and he gets quite emotional, because for Cena being from Massachusetts, Boston is, I guess, sort of his hometown crowd. He says that he is, and he will always be a WWE superstar. Nothing will ever take that away from him. He's proud of what he's achieved in WWE, and he's proud of everybody involved with the company. And so when you ask, what are you gonna do this year at Mania? He says, well, Mania's special. There's only so many slots, and he's pointing to the sign. He's like, there's only so many slots on that show, and I see, when I look at the company these days, I see so many people working so hard. He says he knows how special Mania is for everybody in the back. And so when you get to the question, finally he's going to answer it. What's John Cena going to do at Mania this year? The answer is unfortunately nothing. Like, he hasn't done anything to earn that slot. A WrestleMania slot should be earned, and it should be earned through hard work. It shouldn't just be something that's given to you. And then he says, I'll see you later. I'll be back at some point. I don't know when, but I'll be back at some point. He heads up the ramp. He poses, he's got his salute going on, and then the lights, one by one, start going down as his music goes all weird, and the Fiend is arriving. So when the lights come back up, we just have a shot of Cena looking concerned. He doesn't know what's going on, and then the camera pulls back, and from behind him you just see the Fiend. Cena stares at the Fiend stares at Cena, and then the Fiend just does that and points at the Mania sign. Cena looks at him, looks at the sign, looks back at him, and then just dips his hat. The lights go out, the Fiend disappears, and that is the end of SmackDown. So I'm going to give this closing segment an A. It was just great. It was a reminder of how good John Cena is on the mic. That was unbelievable. I got so excited. It was like goosebumpy, because the way he was getting emotional, man, it was like, is he going to retire? Like, Cena can't retire. This just isn't something that would ever happen. I like how they played off the will he won't he that surrounds Cena and Mania every single year, and I think that the Fiend has to go over him clean. This is the only way to really keep him looking strong, and especially if Cena's going to be going away for a while. He gets nothing out of a win here if he's just going to disappear to Hollywood for 3 years and make some movies. If he loses, it's going to allow Bray to still look like a dominant beast. And it'll prove that Bray doesn't need the belt, which is something I've said from the get-go. I think it was a mistake to put the title on Bray this quickly, because eventually, you're going to have to take the belt off him, and it's not even a year since The Fiend debuted. So hopefully this, like beating Cena clean at Mania, fingers crossed, that will just rejuvenate the Fiend. It was a little bit weird how he was like, I don't want a Mania match, I don't deserve one, I haven't worked for one, I'll have a match. That was a bit weird though. Sort of stuck in my craw a bit, but we're going to have a fun match at Mania, so yeah. And in terms of an overall grade for SmackDown this week, I'm going to have to give it a B, just if you look at the averages of the scores. I think, I was worried with Super Showdown after everything that happened. It was smart of them to just get Goldberg out of the way first. I still think they should have made him heel it up. I don't understand why he just went, oh, well, it's done, rather than running Bray down. If he just mercilessly ran Bray down, ran Roman down, ran everybody down, it would have been fine. But they got him out of the way first, and they just delivered high-paced action, exciting matches to just sort of numb the brain, get rid of that thought for a bit, and then we had the big closing segment with Cena and The Fiend, which was just beautiful. So yeah, that was this week's SmackDown. Hell of a roller coaster the last few days, but an alright episode, so catch you next week. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you like what we do here at Cultaholic, you can check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/Cultaholic. And no matter what you do, don't ever forget to hit subscribe and join us.